Hello, and welcome to the Future of Decision Now podcast, where we have real, candid conversations with thought leaders, practitioners, and tech experts about AI, decision intelligence, and the future of work. I'm your host, Fred Laduyo, CEO and co-founder of Era Technology. Today, we're talking about the decision intelligence journey at Philip Morris International and how the company is improving agility and efficiency across its supply chain. I'm really excited to welcome Gualtiero Cerrato, Supply Chain Director at PMI. Welcome, Gualtiero. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Fred. Thank you very much for hosting me.
And I hope I didn't butcher your name too much, but we rehearsed that just a second ago. So you're in Rome, I understand. Lucky you.
I
I'm in
am.
California. It's early morning for you. It's almost cocktail time for you, so that's awesome. Um, let's start with introductions. Introduce yourself. Tell us about your role at PMI, your background, and what brought you to that company.
Very good. So, as you said, I'm Italian. I'm based in Rome. I'm a lovely husband. I'm a proud father of two kids. And I have for almost about 20 years now a supply chain manager across
Hmm.
different companies. I've been working longly, main experience with Procter& Gamble, and now recently, from the last 3 years in PMI, in Philip Morris.
Okay.
My role in Philip Morris is now global material planning leader for the company. As I mentioned, I joined the company relatively recently in 2021, and the reason I joined the company because I've been exposed to the PMI new purposes, which is to become predominantly a smoke-free company, and I found
Yeah.
it extremely interesting. And so when I had the opportunity to join, I said, why not? I think I have the right competencies. They have a very interesting journey in front of them, and I want to be
Yeah.
part of it.
So let's stick to that because I don't think people really understand what it means. And I remember visiting PMI in Lausanne a few times back in the days, actually even before COVID, when the concept of smoke-free was coming up, and I was quite surprised by the transformation of the company to become a device company, to become a very different business. So tell us a bit more about this. What do you want people to know about that smoke-free vision?
That's indeed a very interesting, the transformation, and as you said, not everybody realizes it, right? So I think up to date, Philip Morris is the only company in tobacco industry who has committed to phase out of conventional cigarettes. And since 2016, we put our science, all innovation department, and to concentrate on sustainability and transformation of the company, and working relentlessly to accelerate the end of smoking. This is what we are trying to do. So the transformation is really to get out of combustible cigarettes into this new technology.
Okay, so no more cigarettes, but that means
Yes,
you're transforming from a company that made a relatively simple, it's always organic,
exactly.
a relatively simple product to becoming an electronics company that also makes those components that are organic. So that must present a lot of challenges when you think about it. You're still working in a very regulated environment, and you now also have the challenges of the constraints of an electronics goods company. So talk a bit about this.
As you said precisely, the magnitude of this transformation is huge for our company because we are moving from a fairly, let's say, simple supply chain setup and company setup into a multi-category company, moving into device producing company. We are also entering a new category like e-cigarette. We are moving into a new category like nicotine pouches. So we are further expanding our
Mhm.
portfolio into different type of products and to different type of platform of product, not only. So it's a big challenge for us. It's a big challenge for the company. Precisely, I'm working in the supply chain management, as you said at the beginning. So the supply chain mission is to synchronize all the operation from end to end, meaning from supplier to the consumer, right? So it's crucial. We are at the center of this transformation, and we need to adapt very fast to all this new dynamic because our complexity is growing rapidly. We basically duplicate our complexity over the last 3 years. And our plan is to continue to grow our complexity the more we expand into new territory, into new launches. So this
Mhm.
requires tremendous speed and agility to rapidly adapt to this market dynamic. And this is not only for the operation, as I said at the beginning, but also, if not especially, in decision-making process. So this is also at the center, right, of all this transformation. You need to take rapidly new decision to adjust your setup to the new environment that you are entering with.
Yeah. So just give us a sense of the scale. The number of SKUs, I assume, is probably more than doubled. I mean, the number of references that you're selling in the market has probably increased dramatically. And I
Exactly.
think people need to understand the complexity of those little devices. They're little electronics marvels. So very, very interesting. So you just talked about decision making. And when we started engaging with PMI, I think that was kind of the idea of how can decision intelligence help us in that transformation, help us anticipate and be best in class when it comes to supply chain for that to support that transformation. So, and you've had very tangible results over the years. So tell us a little bit about your vision for decision intelligence at PMI. What space does it occupy, and how important is it?
It is very important. As I said before, speed and agility is fundamental in this type of environment, right? And what does decision-making process require? You're required to have real-time access to a large number of information that come from a variety of different sources, right? So you need to be capable to rapidly analyze and develop alternative option and alternative scenario for as a decision,
Hmm.
right? So be taken to respond.
Simulations.
Simulation, scenario assumption and calculation. And ultimately, you need to be capable to produce reliable prediction for those options. So what will be the consequence of any decision? If I take one option versus another, what will be the impact to the entire supply chain? As I said before, from supplier of material, in my area of expertise, to the consumer, what will be all the implication of all of that? So decision intelligence tools, the one that we are working and developing with you, is fundamental to support us in this improving this decision making process, right? Because it's vital. As I said before, the more we're growing the complexity, the more we are entering in a new territory, we are expanding our portfolio, and it is made out of launches, right? So we're introducing new products, new brands, we are expanding into new country. So we need to react fast also, because we don't know exactly how the market will react to our new introduction of new technology and new product. And this
Yeah.
requires us to be faster than ever in our company to take decision, and to be sure that we take the decision knowing what will be the consequences of that.
Can you give an example a bit more concrete about how decision intelligence is helping you? What does it give you? We talk about skills, right? The
Yes.
digitized decision making processes, and that are learning over time. Tell us a bit more concretely what you've done, what you're doing, if you can.
So we are developing a variety of different skills, as you mentioned. One, let's say that I can give an example in planning. We need to let's say handle a huge amount of materials and information. And as I said, we need to have fast analysis, right? So one fundamental example that we have been working and developing with you, for example, I'm doing supply chain planning. A fundamental element of supply chain planning is stock policy definition, right? So we need to ensure that we take the right definition of what is the level of inventory we want to carry in our business to react to the market dynamics and fluctuation of the demand. And this is a relatively simple, all right, information when you have all the data in your hands, but there are different elements to consider, right? First,
Mhm.
the number of data that you need to include into this analysis is quite wide and complex, and it comes from different type of system that are not easy to interlink each other, right? So you need to cross data all together, you need to analyze it, and last but not the least, I want to emphasize this element: you need to execute the decision. Meaning, anytime you take a decision, you also need to ensure that this decision reach all the level that you need in the organization to execute at the level you're planning, right?
Yeah.
In the example of the inventory management solution that we are developing with you, of course, we had already before toolbox that was helping us to identify the right level of inventory we want to carry in our business, right? But as I said, first element, analyzing all the data that we need, is a quite complex exercise, and we were not capable to run it at the frequency we wanted. In some cases, for
Yeah.
certain type of material, we could not run it more than once a year. And in an environment of business that I was describing to you at the beginning, where we are developing, introducing new platform, it's not sufficient. We want to be much faster than that, right? So we need
Yeah.
to adapt very fast. So those type of solution, decision intelligence solution, are helping us to analyze those data in a much faster way because they're helping us to retrieve the right information at the right time to enter in a process of revisiting on a monthly cadence, which is what we want to have now for the entire portfolio of our business. And last but not the least, as I said, also to implement. My team is managing more than 25,000 material across 40 plus factories. If you do a rapid calculation, it is more than a million combination, right? So
Yep.
if you need to intervene on a million combination to adjust all the parameter, because planning is done by parameter in the system, you need to have a humongous capacity to adjust fast. If you want to do it on a monthly basis, that's quite a wide number of transactions that you need to handle. So decision intelligence for us is fundamental, as I said, to take the right decision, to simulate the option and to pre-calculate what will be the impact, what will be the budget that you need to absorb eventually a decision or adjustment, and also to implement and to reach wider number of function in our department. Because at the end of the day, supply chain is a very end-to-end exercise. So we need to connect supplier, we need to connect our logistic carrier partner, we need to connect our factories, we need to connect ultimately the distribution to our consumers. So it's important that we have those tools that is helping us to reach all the step down in the supply chain management.
It's interesting because when we introduced the concept of decision intelligence back 7, 8 years ago now, 2017, we were talking about it being a response to increasing decision velocity. You just said it, from 1 year
Yes.
to 1 month, and I'm sure it's going to continue to accelerate. Talked about data volume and the ability to bring data from all the different internal and external data sources to have a single a model, what we call a decision data model that has the all the information that needs for decision to be made digitally. And we talked about intelligence, which is the ability to process the intelligence across and manage the complexity of the decisions. And I don't know if you realized it, but you just went through the 3 steps when you were giving the description of your skill, or the one of your skills. Would you give skills names? Is the skill has a name internally? Is there I think
The name we're giving is a stock policy tool. That's how we call it,
okay.
which is
Yeah.
fundamental. But it's fundamental because, as I said, so we had already tool, right? And then to be very frank with you, it was
Yeah.
an Excel macro.
Yeah.
That's what we use in the past. And as many other solutions that we have still in companies these days. But what is enabling us now, and the vision, as you said, is even to expand, because no more we were introducing as input into this solution just few parameters like production frequency, volatility, and this type of things. Now we are working to introduce also single supply performance to be capable to identify the level of inventory of a certain material, let's say different if it's come from one supplier versus another, because not all the suppliers are reliable in the same way. And also introducing a different level if in one factory versus another, because the lead time and the transportation complexity to reach those factories is different one to another. So we are arriving to a level of granularity that was unprecedented for us.
That's awesome. And you measure value. I mean, I don't want to get you into a spot where the answers are confidential, and I know there's a strong sense of confidentiality around some of these topics. But you have defined clear values, metrics to measure the impact. Besides the fact that you can do it more faster.
Absolutely yes, absolutely yes. As you may imagine, we define clear success criteria for all the new solution, all the new skill that we are introducing. Obviously, for this stock policy tool, the main success is to reduce the cash investment that we have, and then we are immobilizing in the company as net working capital, we call it, right? So cash that we have in inventory. But let's say stock policy is a fundamental element of it.
That's brilliant. And that's one skill. Of course, I know over the years on the Era platform, the Era Decision Cloud, PMI was able to deploy multiple skill. But sticking to that one, you mentioned globally, you mentioned 40 different sites.
Yes.
How do you drive? Because that's a question everybody has, right? So how do you start, and then how do you drive adoption? Can you talk about that?
That's a very fundamental question because at the beginning it was not easy, Fred. I tell you, that's so
If
I
it was
think
easy, everybody would do
everybody.
it.
No, I know, but I think it was very complex at the beginning to get started and also to have the machine really running at the speed we wanted, right? And so what we learn is that it's important that you have a clear vision on how much you want to touch in terms of processes with this decision intelligence tool, and you need to have it, and you need to communicate to your organization. It's important that your organization understand the size of your transformation when you're starting, because normally, at least what we have done, we started like the example that I'm giving to you, which is the most advanced that we're having at the moment. We
Mhm.
were basically substituting a tool that we already had, right? And so the first
Yeah.
reaction could be, we already have a tool. Why we need a new one? Why I need to learn a new one? Why I need to help you
Yeah.
developing a new one, right? And so
Yeah.
you need to explain that this is fundamental steps that I need to change one day to be able to attach more business decision in area where we don't have a tool yet. So if I don't enter with decision intelligence in the process that I already own and handle properly, I will not able to develop new tool for other aspect of the business for which we don't have a tool which is helping us in taking decision. So
That's
we
interesting.
started in this very simple example that I give it to you, but it's much wider, and I think you are dealing with many example. But again, inventory management is simple, but I need it to be capable to one day to simulate the scenario and what will be anticipating, let's say, the risk that we are facing in a very dynamic environment. Because at the moment we are normally reacting with the tool that we had to the reality, right? What is the current production volatility? But we are entering in a business where we want to simulate what if the production volatility and the sales volatility when we launch a new product in the market will increase and will double. We were not capable with the previous tool to do that, right? So that's why we had to create this stock policy tool in order also to have now, and we are testing in these days, to have a tool that is simulating scenario. What if I
Yeah.
adjust intentionally and arbitrarily the parameter, and what would be the right level of inventory that I want to have to cope with this volatility that I may face in the future?
What's the horizon that you're simulating to? Is it short term? Is it midterm? Is it long term?
It's well, let's say inventory parameter in this case is very easy because it's instantaneous, but the frequency is fundamental. Anyhow,
Mhm.
when we simulate the impact on net working capital, minimum we look at the next 1 year. So we need to be sure
One
that
year.
the next 1 year is fundamental. Anyhow, it's also important that the more we are entering in this scenario simulation solution is also helping us these days to set our 3 and 5 years journey, right? So we have, as any other company, objective and goal, which are set 3 years and 5 years ahead. And the more we are entering in this territory of being capable to create scenario and simulate the impact of our decision intelligence, I think we are more and more capable to control what will be the impact in 5 years as of now, and also to anticipate, as I told you, what will be the reaction in case these things happen. We all know that, especially in supply chain management, there is more and more challenges, even on logistic carrier performances, availability. From time to time, we have some disruption element, like Panama Canal is not working, and you need to react to that, right? So you want to simulate what will be the impact if these things occur next year. So we need to be
Yeah.
sure that we are capable to predict and also to anticipate if headwinds is coming to us.
Yeah, it's the agility that you need to react, to anticipate for sure. How long did it take to get that skill up and running, roughly, a range?
So how long did it take? I think we started more than 1 year ago. I think in June, we reached 50% of the adoption, meaning that we are utilizing the recommendation that the tool is giving us. Because what is fundamental for us is that the tool is recommending to the planner,
Yeah.
right? What should be the right level of inventory, and helping them to take a decision. Of course, the planner can still intervene, can still attach some business intelligence that maybe we are not fully capable to simulate in the system. But we wanted to measure how fast we are adopting the recommendation of the tool. So by 6 months, we reached 50% of the adoption, which was above our target because we were targeted to be 40% of adoption. Now we are cruising around 70% of adoption of the recommendation follow. which is very fast 1 year after the implementation. So I think
Amazing.
this is the journey, and we are now expanding to, we are now covering 100% of the business, as I told you. Because the
And you talk
other,
about those recommendations that are now processed on a monthly basis, which
yeah,
is very
exactly right.
important. So it's a volume of work basically that's being managed by the combination of the system and the planners has dramatically increased. And that increase is being offset by the fact that now you say 70% of the decisions are done through recommendations that are processed digitally.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
It's a huge amount of work that is helping us to process. And the other thing that was crucial in this journey, if I may describe, was how to approach it, right? Because there is always this complexity that maybe other of the company is struggling with is, do I start with a small pilot and then I scale it up, or do I start immediately with a global scale solution, right? Which is not an easy decision always, especially for big company like the one like Philip Morris.
Yeah.
So in many cases, and also in my experience, normally you start with a small pilot. You start with a small pilot, which is beneficial because you proceed fast, right? So you identify a solution, the environment you are testing is easy and small, and you find a solution relatively quickly. And then when you start to scale up, then you face several complexity, because then you realize that your solution doesn't fit to all the different need that you have on a global scale. So that's why the key challenge, or the key difference that we implement in our solution this time, was to start immediately with a global scale. It
Yeah.
was not easy. It was not easy because it took very long in the first months to develop and to design a solution that was fitting for all, right? So we took several different key users around the globe, and we asked them what is the help
How do
us
you
in
decide?
designing the
Yeah.
solution,
Yes.
right? But that was fundamental to reach, as I mentioned before, the 70% adoption in a relatively small time. Because now that we have a solution that already fits to all the need for all the different factory and all different dynamic at the regional level in every single region of the world, then we can move fast. So I think
But you had a situation where we had started working with PMI, I think, before COVID. So the I just thinking about my next question, which is the advice.
yeah,
When companies start the first deployment, they usually have this pilot, this test drive, this early initiative to make sure that the technology works, it integrates on and off, in and out, that you can build the logic. That was already done as a company, right? Not your area, not what you're managing. So I guess it must have been a bit more helpful to get started on that project at a global basis, because you only had to worry about the logic and the adoption, but you knew that data integration and all this stuff was already working pretty much because it'd been working for quite some time. Is that a fair comment?
yes. No, I think it's a fair comment. We did had pilot in the past.
Yeah.
Still, we are still working in this pilot. Let's say proving the concept and then to expanding. This is
Yeah.
still needed, right? This is fundamental. You don't stop. But the difference was even with this single skill solution, right? Do we want to start with a small, really small
Yeah.
pilot and then to expand it up? And this would have most probably taken very long, much longer than to reach a global scale as we do now.
I
Still,
guess
this is
that's
one
my.
skill.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Sorry, I wanted to say that this is one skill. So we
Yeah.
started with the one skill and we decided to do global. Anyhow, for sure, we are creating a wide vision of different skills that we want to develop in terms of decision intelligence. And now we are approaching, prioritizing what is the next that we want to introduce in the next quarter, and et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah.
for sure, we are starting small and scaling up
But
much.
I really like what you said about going big right away. But kind of leads me to my last questions, which is when you talk to other practitioners that are in that journey, in this building and deploying decision intelligence, what's your recommendation? What are the lessons learned? Maybe we just talked about it, but what are the lessons learned that you have that you would be willing to share?
Well, I think what I can say to our practitioner in this area, I think, as I said, three elements I already mentioned. One is to have a wide vision, right, to be aligned, and to be aligned most probably as cross-functional as possible, because the real benefit of this type of solution is to touch more function than possible, and really to have the possibility to analyze more data and to take decision that impact more function than your specific single function where you are developing a
Yeah.
solution. The second is to put the user, right? The user experience as a key success criteria. So the user must be at the center of the design, which is not easy, right? Because it takes a bit of time, but it's fundamental. Because to one of the comment that you made, and I think it's very right, if we don't simplify the life of our user, our planner in my case, but the user of the solution, then people will not adopt it, right? And then
Correct.
we will move. We cannot move to the end of the vision of all the decision intelligence solution that we want to introduce if we don't have the right utilization of the tool. And then the last one, I think, be prepared to continuous adjustment of all those skills, because nothing lasts forever. And the more we are progressing, we all know that the work is, the job is very dynamic. So even when you do the final user acceptance test at the end of your journey, still be ready that most probably after 6 months, you will have instantaneously
Yeah,
adjust and to continuous improve your solutions.
I could not agree with you more. I think you're calling out the very, very right points. Um,
Very
excellent.
good.
And I thought you wanted to ask me a question as well.
I want to ask you a question because, of course, I want to leverage the possibility to be in touch with you. And thank you very much again for hosting me and for having this very nice conversation.
Pleasure. It's fun.
But what I want to ask is, I think you're working with several companies, so I know perfectly what is the PMI experience. But now that you have this possibility to help different companies in this decision intelligence journey, what would be your advice to me, to Philip Morris, to go even further and faster in this journey to introduce decision intelligence at the core of our business processes?
Super candidly, I think you're doing what I would have said you should do. And I think you said a couple of things that were very important. The first one is you define a scope and you're going big right away. If you take a scope that's too narrow, then the impact is going to be too narrow, and you're not going to create a lot of traction immediately. So you can do a pilot to test the technology, but what we're seeing that's working right now, and we've seen that, for example, with Dell. Last year at our hub conference, we had Sasha Koff from Dell. Their approach was, we're going to take one market, one product, and a big one, not a small one. Test it very fast. If it works, we go. And when we say we go, it's about how do we make it work, and not is it going to work. So get the confidence that this is going to work and add value, and then go quite big right away is one first element. Second, you talked about the focus on the end user. Fundamental. Bring the end users early in the process. Uh, when I said the process of defining how decisions are made. I've seen so many projects that kind of lingered because you have a corporate team that assumes that they know how decisions are made. So they'll go and build a skill and then deploy the skill. And when it hits the users are like, this is not how we work. We work very differently because, yeah, there is a rules book, there is a playbook, there is a process, but the reality of decisions, how you assign stuff, how you run stuff, is usually different. So bring the users early on. One of the podcasts I did recently with JDI, George Tedevan, was really interesting. He said, Era is bringing oxygen to the users. And in the context of what you've talked about, Gualtiero, which is going from a yearly to a monthly, and I'm sure you're going to accelerate, there's no way the planners can do the work. So you get to bring that oxygen, that intelligence. So really focus on the users, understand their pain point. And it's always down to too much complexity, too much velocity, and too much volume. Focus on that. If they buy in, if they become the biggest advocates, you can now build from one skill to skill, and clients that are working 25 different skills. And looking at digitizing 80% of supply chain, 90% of supply chain decisions. So I think you got it right on going big. I think you got it right on focusing on the users. The third element that you made, which I think is really interesting, and I don't think you caught it, but you said, oh, we started with 50% adoption and then we went up to 70%. That is counterintuitive. People are going to listen to us talking and go, 50% is really bad. Oh my God, it's only 50%. 50% of what? 50% of automated recommendations that are
Automated recommendation.
accepted with one click by the users and
Correct.
getting executed. That's a massive number. But your approach, which was I don't care if it's 50 as long as it's going to 70 and 80 and 90 and it's could keep growing is the right one in my opinion. We're seeing customers today in the first phase of building decision intelligence, both the technology and the practice with our early clients, and PMI is one of them. We were all at fault of trying to get the perfect design right away. Perfect design. You have 40 different sites. You have to adjust. Today, I think the market, based on our knowledge and the technology maturity, we're getting to a point where it's like, it doesn't matter. Take care of the users, give them some oxygen, and explain to them that early on, it might not be 90% acceptance, but their input is going to allow you, as the team that designs the skill, to very quickly iterate and improve the quality of the recommendations, the accuracy of the recommendation, the frequency of the recommendations, apply to the right level of granularity, to suddenly increase the acceptance and go to automated system. So that approach where we've all been wired to say, oh, it's a planning tool, it has to be perfect design before we launch, but because this was very rigid, hard coded stuff, the nature of the technology allows you to quickly adapt and learn from the interactions with the user and fine tune. And you said it also very well. It's a journey, it doesn't stop. The evolution of your business requirements, the evolution of the way you make and execute decisions is there and has to be a factor. So my advice is just keep doing what you're doing because I think you're doing it well. Define big scopes, get the fundamental skill built enough to a level that can secure a good level of adoption, but continue to iterate quickly with the users and keep putting the users at the center. And I think that's super exciting what you've done. So thank you so much. I hope I answered your question, but honestly, I didn't have much to add
Great.
because you kind of done it very right. So very very happy with the partnership, and looking forward to the next steps in the journey because I think you're onto something very interesting.
Thank you very much then for the advice and confirming that we're doing well. So we will continue.
That's awesome. Listen, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be in touch soon, of course, because we're working pretty closely together and with the teams, and really grateful for the partnership over the years, and congrats on the success because this is really really cool. So thank you very much.
To you, Fred. Thank you very much.
All right, so this concludes our Future of Decision Now podcast, leveraging decisions intelligence to improve supply chain agility and efficiency at PMI. You can view today's podcast on our website at eratechnology.com. Thank you.